Let's bring it back home now, and I want to talk about dramatic backflip today by the Melbourne Comedy Festival. I was very critical of them, as well as others yesterday, for the way they'd shunned and cancelled Barry Humphries and hadn't recognised him properly after his passing on Saturday. Have a look at this tweet they've issued today where they've effectively backed down. The news of Humphries' passing in the last 24 hours of the festival was momentous. From today, we regroup and start to plan a fitting tribute to his comic genius and leading role in creating a global platform for Australian comedy. Ali, that's a straight acknowledgement of their mistake, doesn't it? Not a word of bitterness or criticism, just recognising the greatness of the man.
Yeah, and it is such a shame in the week of his passing, we're pulling apart his politics and playing around with these nuances as opposed to remembering the art and the genius. Now, it comes down to whether or not you can separate art from the artist itself, but what Barry Humphries did for the cultural environment of this country needs to be celebrated, should be celebrated, and for a festival that he did so much to start, yes, it's been a bit of a U-turn, which I think was much needed.
Good U-turn. A U-turn, better to correct your mistakes than carry on regardless. But over at the ABC, Stephen, they still were hacking into Barry Humphries' memory last night. Have a look at some of their drum program.
Some of the views were not progressive and not relevant anymore. So that's how I've kind of resolved that, because these days the awards are being handed to people who identify as transgender or as a person of colour, so it seemed wrong to receive an award that was in a legacy of somebody who was quite open about their views on these topics.
So that's Annie Louie. Apparently she's a comedian and she's all in on this dour, politically correct enunciation. God knows how funny she would be as a stand-up, I don't know. But have a look at another ABC regular, Jane Caro.
It is a pity that Barry Humphries doubled down on it. It would have been great if he was able to actually, you know, move on and learn something about that sort of thing. I think he would have been more of a hero. I really enjoyed the Edna Everage character, and that whole character about her being a celebrity and a megastar was an absolute comment on how absurd and ridiculous it is to think of yourself as a celebrity and a megastar.
Now, just to be clear, Stephen, that was Jane Caro, not Dame Edna Everage. I mean, they just can't let go of this stuff, can they?
No, and look, I think the reality is that, you know, in hindsight, maybe it's better that they renamed the Barry Award, because when it was the Barry Award, it was handed out to comedians who are funny. Now it's handed out to comedians who identify as funny. I mean, look, it's just extraordinary. And you know, I know people are giving credit to the Melbourne Comedy Festival for backflipping, but they backflip a day after the festival closes. There was an opportunity for them to acknowledge Barry Humphries while the very festival was going on. Now that it's over, well, we'll now regroup and think about what we might do 12 months down the track. I don't think it's enough. It's too little too late for mine. But look, I think the important thing is to remember the greatness of Barry Humphries. I mean, the absolute wit of the man himself and those great characters who I think took Australia's irreverent attitude to itself to the world stage. And I think that's what we're losing now. And all of these detractors are proving that what Barry Humphries represented, we've lost. And that is the sad thing about it.
So effectively, the Melbourne Comedy Festival is missing only two of the two critical elements in comedy, that is wit and timing. Yes. They plough on regardless.